Okay, that was a great session. We're going to get going now on sustainability and heritage, the role of landscape and garden design traditions. If everyone could take their seats, please. Come on in. I was very proud to introduce Chris Long with his 30 years of experience. He began his career as a planner designer at Singapore Parks and Recreation Department, led projects, I assume many, for the National Parks Board, and joined Henning Larsen in 2016. I will not steal too much more thunder, and I will hand it over to you, Chris. It's one I'm personally very excited for to hear this.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Alan. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to speak on a topic very close to my heart, the role of landscape and garden traditions in sustainable development. If you were to sum it up in a very simple two questions, it's about, is the natural beautiful or is the beautiful natural? We certainly talk quite a fair bit about design traditions within our company, an interdisciplinary practice working across architecture, landscape, and urbanism. We talk about our heritage, the legacy of our founders, navigating the complex connections that bind together our built environment, ecological systems, and societies at large. And in an organization with more than 610 diverse global designers in 8 different countries, many serving very local needs, we know that such interactions are necessary to align the practice toward a common understanding of design excellence. At Henning Larsen, we position ourselves as your partner for sustainable design. I believe very few will challenge the contribution of landscape to sustainability. Most will understand the ecosystem functions that a well put together combination of plants, media, and water can perform. In Singapore, we also see ourselves as a city in nature. But is nature automatically beautiful? No doubt, when we show photographs like this, they are always beautiful. I mean, if they're not, you will not be hiring us, right? But we don't talk about making things beautiful or what makes things beautiful as much as we talk about how we build sustainable development. And I think the reason for that is very clear when we look at the statistics. The climate crisis is one of 2 current crises in our time. The other being the biodiversity loss, which of course is interrelated to climate change itself. There is indeed urgency in what we need to do. So you look at the numbers, in the last 20 years, from 1980 to 1990, the numbers were almost double the 20 years prior. And from 2020 onwards, the numbers continue to increase. But climate change and extinctions are nothing new to Earth. According to NASA science, just in the last 800,000 years, our Earth has gone through 8 cycles of ice ages and warmer periods. The current climate crisis is significant on 2 counts. One, the belief that we or our actions is the cause for it. And 2, that this crisis if it results in a major extinction, that we will disappear along with current nature. Henning Larsen has been very fortunate to contribute to the initiation of climate adaptive landscape in Singapore. This image shows our first project. It shows Bishan Park working and working very well, but it's not a very pretty photo. And during this storm event in January 2017, people thought that the Bishan Park and its design has failed. But many others came forward to explain how, in fact, the event showed that the park is working very well. But let us, as professionals, not perpetuate the fallacy that the image below represents a less engineered landscape. It is no less engineered than the image on the top. The difference is that they were engineered for very different objectives. The one on the top seeks to drive water and discharge it as fast as possible, while the one below is engineered to slow it down and hold it in the landscape. But both engineerings change our environment to suit our needs and what we believe to be necessary for our survival at that time. Not unlike bees who build hives and beavers that make dams. But then, why did we build differently then and today? The difference lies in the knowledge we have gained about the environment and the trust in the science of that knowledge. Can it then be the same for the art in landscape design? What is this art that sits at the foundation behind the design of Bishan Park? We know it's art, not nature, because if it were nature, unaltered and unfiltered, much like the stream in Sarawak in this image, wild, unkempt, and secluded, without clear sight lines and good visual connectivity, it could actually feel like a very uncomfortable and unsafe, maybe even really uncomfortable and unsafe place. So we use science to mimic natural processes at projects such as Bishan Park, as well as here in one of our latest built project, Rifle Range Nature Park. There is also much knowledge behind the skills and art of landscape aesthetics. We deploy these to engineer the parks to be comfortable and safe spaces, both psychologically and physically for our enjoyment and our well-being. The way we experience space and landscape is more complex than we know. When running away from predators, researchers have found that both the lizard and the cockroach exhibit an interesting tactic known as rapid inversion. They will launch into the air while clinging onto the edge of the surface, swing themselves onto the underside, and in this way disappear from the sight of the predators. Now, both animals are known to congregate together, but they are not social animals like ants or bees. So it is very unlikely that they will have learned this from each other or from the different species. So this is known as convergence in evolution, when two different species coming down through different evolutionary lines exhibits the same, what we call phenotypes, a certain behavior in helping them survive. These convergence underline the usefulness of this skill for them to escape predators and ensure their survival. In many cultures, we showcase similar responses to objects and their effects on spaces. There are cultural activities, for example, centered around a pole or a tree trunk. In my very cursory search on the significance of the maypole dance, shown in the photo in the middle, common in many parts of Europe, I cannot find any link that links it to spatial cognition. But many link it to the reverence of trees, and in so may be very similar to the dance around trees we find in Asian cultures. So by moving outside of a landscape design tradition and then coming back in, I'm convinced of the significance of form and order in the landscape on the way we feel. Space and objects in space influence the way we move, and the way we move influence the way we perceive the space. This, in turn, of course, has influenced the way we've designed spaces through the course of history. We have used this understanding to good effect in the design of our project, Mayor House. It is a high-end residential development. Each unit in this development comes with its own private lift. And each private lift lobby in the basement, therefore, becomes a unique key transitional space that connects the private spaces to the central communal area. And the organization of this become a key theme in our design. We saw this passage through the lower floor, up into the upper story, as if it's a tunnel from the tropics all the way through the earth to the other side, so that when the residents come out onto the landscape on top, they come into a so-called temperate area or temperate country. The outcome is a delightful garden with a unique blend of tropical European look. But more importantly, you may notice in this photo that the use of plant elements, their heights, their relative heights to each other, as well as their forms, all played an important role in the design of this garden. It is based on careful study of the interior spaces, where the living room is, where the bedrooms are. It is based also on an understanding of how the landscape responds to these interior spaces, how we feel as we move through different spaces. Such design knowledge and skills, traditions, and heritage of the field, grown through generations of designers, have been passed down and also documented in textbooks. But why do they work? Plants are ordered or organized in a certain way in various heights. They look better. Why? The space feels more comfortable. Why? I believe that the delight in such spaces is deeper seated than we care to believe. These responses to spaces is so deep-seated in our DNA that much, in fact, has been talked about. I have said earlier that all that is natural is automatically beautiful. E.O. Wilson, the author of the book Biophilia, did not believe that we only feel good about all nature. In his book, the reverence of the serpent was a central theme. Likewise, in his definition, nature also includes forces and systems of nature. I would like to add that nature also includes how we relate both positively as well as negatively to natural stimuli. Indeed, further development, especially in the area of biophilic design, look not only into living things as crucial to this affinity to nature and natural systems, but also in highlighting what is comfortable to us versus what is not. Hence, when we wax lyrical about biophilic design, we are indeed also drawing from the deep heritage of spatial design, knowledge of and skills that form the foundation of the practice and principles of biophilic design. Such heritage include, for example, J. Appleton's prospect refuge theory, explained in his book, The Experience of Landscape from 1975. So I was talking about the experience of landscape by J. Appleton. It is a theory that explores the significance of visual connectivity from and between spaces on landscape psychology. So when we transform the arrival experience and Park Royal Pickering Marina Bay from this to this, we delight visitors not just with nature elements, but with the skills and artisan of the connectivity of what the eyes and the mind's eyes actually see. We connect the green dots. We create niches that have varying degrees of prospect and varying degrees of refuge, and transform the space from this to this. Of course, the spaces are defined by architecture, furniture, and even carpet. But we find that when we use plants, the effect is indeed very different. And this is because of our understanding of the ideas and principles behind prospect and refuge. So immersing our users in nature is not just about the nature that is out there, the plants, the material, but also the nature that is in here, inside all of us, how we feel and how we see. How we see nature is again a very key component of this next project, Mandai Rainforest Resort. It is located in Mandai, a region in the north of Singapore on a peninsula surrounded by the waters of Upper Seletar Reservoir. It is part of a cluster of wildlife attractions, the existing zoo, night safari, river safari, and the very recently opened bird paradise. And the way we appreciate wildlife and safety in such attractions becomes food for thought for our design. For indeed, the very theory of prospect and refuge that works for us works, in fact, also for wildlife, because the same rules of survival influence the way many living things feel in space. And so at Mandai Resort, we return the favor. Instead of us looking at wildlife in an enclosure, we allow wildlife to look at us in an enclosure. No, I'm kidding. We see ourselves in an enclosure looking at wildlife. So for me, this project truly highlights to us how we are a part of nature and we cannot live apart from it. The ports of Mandai Resort serve not just as eyes to nature, but really as a window into our own nature. In our design, we believe that sometimes it's not about seeing new things, but seeing them with fresh eyes. Apart from being the landscape designer, Henning Larsen is co-master planner of Mandai. And it is a project not just about visual or abstract connection, but real physical connections as well. Due to the physical nature of the peninsula, it is inevitable that the access into the development separates the site into two parts. The park master plan envisioned a scheme that buttons the site at 3 key locations. The one button in the middle serves purely the free wildlife, whereas the other two serve as circulation nodes for visitors. The image you see here gives you a glimpse of the Mandai Wildlife Bridge. It is here in the middle here, not accessible to humans, strictly for animals only. The other two connections, here and here, one west of this bridge is called Mandai Wildlife West. The other one is not yet open. Mandai Wildlife West is today itself a popular destination for visitors, serving not only as a transition space to the paid attractions, but also as part of the nature experience. In designing Mandai Wildlife West, we use our understanding of natural forces and natural systems to curate an authentic experience, interpreting how the forces of water has caused the ground to collapse and thus resulted in a collapsed cavern. This design metaphor, very much like when we were designing Mayor House, becomes the vertical connection not only physically, but visually as well as in our mind. So visitors from the lower level, coming from various motorized modes of transport, arrive and see this waterfall, but they have different ways to move up to the upper level. For example, visitors can take the pedestrian ramp behind the falls up to the landscape deck that then bring them to the attractions of Mandai. All these are designed as a believable system of spaces because these are based on science and our understanding of natural forces and nature systems, as well as our psychology vis-a-vis such nature and natural systems. How we need visual connections, interact with different elements with our senses, including natural objects, light, and shadows. I believe that by building our collective knowledge about landscape aesthetics, of landscape psychology, built upon a curiosity about our design heritage, about why the beautiful is beautiful, can add to an important aspect to sustainability. Because beauty of nature, as well as built nature, is not skin deep, but affects us deeply in the way we stay, navigate, and feel in space. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Would anyone like to ask any questions? All right, I'll do it again, okay? How do you see the challenge for Singapore to push itself to the next place? I mean, it's already doing so many things. It's so future forward, but do you have a prediction? Do you know some secret information in the background? Something going on? What's the next thing that's not here yet? And where will we go with landscape?
I think we are still far from a stage where we can rest on our laurels. I would like to, for example, see more of Bishan parks. There are many waterways in Singapore, and many of these have opportunities to be developed into spaces like Bishan Park, where we can not only have the landscape perform ecosystem functions, but where people can truly enjoy what I call is beautiful. And for me, it also needs to happen in the mind, as I'm trying to explain, because we can export perhaps our idea of what is beautiful, how to make use of nature, and our expertise that we've gained in all these developments that we've done here. So in that sense, I think there is much we can still do in Singapore.
Excellent, thank you. Would anyone like to ask a question? Okay, with that, we'll wrap up this session. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much,
informative. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Big welcome, big round of applause for Chris.